exactly. There's good debt and there's bad debt. And debt itself can be a great way to get yourself ahead in the game. It's a great way to leverage, which is what we call it in business terms, and be able to move a step up. So you might not be able to afford deposit or a property as a whole, but by leveraging, aka borrowing money, you may be able to move up again. A lot of the biggest investors and the richest people never use their own money. They use something called OPM, which is other people's money. So that means going out, raising funds, raising capital, because if a business plan is so good and you believe in it, somebody else will believe in it, and if somebody else believes in it, use their money. The simplest form of raising capital is something as simple as taking out a mortgage. You can't buy a mortgage. You can't buy a house outright, so you raise enough for a deposit and take out a mortgage. That's using money leveraged from somewhere else. Mortgages are always out there as long as you can show your income and you have the deposit ready. So how can you save up for this deposit? Well, it's as simple as asking some friends, family, look, do you have spare money in your account you're not using? A couple of thousand. You might be able to raise yourself up to 20,000, 25, whatever you've got in your savings. So that's a form of using other people's money to build up enough for your deposit. What's important to know is that good debt and bad debt. So, what is bad debt? Bad debt is debt that you pay yourself. You buy a new car, you need to pay it off, yeah? So you're paying it off with your salary, your wages. That's bad debt. If it's your own house, you're living in the house, you're working, you make money in your day job, and you're paying off that house, that's bad debt. Bad debt is debt that you pay off. Now, good debt is debt that someone else pays for you. So when it comes to things like a buy-to-let mortgage, and you are renting out a second property, the flat, that flat is bringing you money, and your tenant is essentially paying off that mortgage. Your tenant is doing the work, you're not doing the work. Your tenant is working, giving you money, you're taking that money, paying it off, and you've got a bit of spare on your side. So all of a sudden, this becomes a good debt. Debt that you're not paying off, it's paying itself, really. Good debt is debt that someone else pays, bad debt is debt that you pay. So, if a company leverages money from lots of different mortgage companies, but it is not using that property itself, all these properties are rented out, this is good debt. That means, say if it was myself, I wouldn't need to work for that, and I wouldn't need to worry about losing my job to pay for these debts, because it's someone else's. Now, I would still have to be aware that if this property doesn't rent out, that would fall back on the company or myself. So, referring back to a previous video I did, put a link for it somewhere. Referring back to a previous video, is property risky? Well, if there was one property to be rented out and that tenant left and there was an empty period, then I would have no other income and I'd have to pay for that, or it'd come out of the pot. But if there was more than one, 3, 4, it's pretty easy for one property to cover over the mortgage payments on an empty property. So I'm not worried about having to work enough to cover this. It's still good debt, it's still getting paid off. That's that really. Good debt versus bad debt. Debt is not all the same. Debt does not come equal. Be aware and make sure you know the difference between good debt and bad debt. Similarly, it's the difference between asset and liability. So, an asset is something which puts money in my pocket on a day-to-day basis, whereas a liability is something which takes money out of my pocket on a day-to-day basis. So when a lot of people say, oh, your house is an asset, your house is an asset, is it? Here's an exercise for you. Your house, is it an asset or a liability? Your car, is it an asset or a liability? How about if you were a taxi driver then? Is your car an asset or a liability? Okay. So the answer, well, your house, I alluded to earlier, is not an asset. It may be an asset to the bank, but it's not your asset. Your house does not give you money in your pocket every single day. You have liabilities within that. So you're paying the mortgage, maybe. You're paying council tax, management fees, if it's on an estate, whatever. Gas, electric, general maintenance. If you left that property, every single day it's costing you money. It's a liability. Now, if that was rented out, if that was a rental property, and you have your monthly income from that, you're paying your fees, all your management, this, that, the other, you're paying your fees, the mortgage, and you're making extra on top of that. Now that's when it becomes an asset. Going to your car's a liability. You're paying your yearly mortgage, your insurance, wear and tear, you're paying road tax, it's depreciating in value. So every single day your car is your liability. But a taxi driver, your car is an asset to the taxi driver. Every day he's using it. Every day he's using it to go out, to pick up people, drop them off. Using it for taxi duties. And people are paying him because he comes in this car and picks them up, drops them off. They pay him for this service. So a car all of a sudden becomes from a liability to an asset because he's using it to make money, and it's making him money, it's making him positive equity every single day. So these are differences between an asset and a liability, and once you understand these differences, you can start to become on your way to be financially free. Now you'll start to realise what's costing you money, we'll pick this up another day.